Hey guys, Warren Eckstein here with my first ever live Facebook post. I've never done this before, so I got butterflies in my stomach. I've been on a lot of TV and a lot of radio, but I've never ever done this before. So what we're going to be talking about today is the other day, Denise and I were going through kind of like an under staircase hideaway. And there I found literally boxes and boxes of information about clients I've trained over the last 40 years. Well, clients and their pets. So I call my pets the clients and the people the pets. Anyway, it occurred to me that there's so many thousands and thousands of different stories that it may be a great idea to share some of them with you. And there are literally thousands and thousands. I chose for the first one because this was an interesting story. It was the case of Duke. Duke was an overtrained German Shepherd that I had to literally untrain and retrain the dog. Now, how does one untrain and how does one retrain? First of all, let me set the background. The early 1970s, Copeg, Long Island. If anyone knows Long Island, it's kind of like Suffolk County, but not too far away from the Nassau County line. Now, Duke, a beautiful, beautiful German Shepherd, actually belonged, well, if you watch any of those shows on History Channel or National Geographic and you see images of the mob or mafia people, yes, this was one of those people. You would recognize his name and his face right away. Anyway, he was a kind of a real macho type guy. I never really dealt with him specifically, but he sent the dog away to be trained, literally. He sent the dog away to be trained for 3 months, 12 weeks the dog was gone and being trained. And when the dog came back, he wasn't satisfied enough. First of all, it wasn't being trained by me. I never trained dogs away from the people. He's being trained by some school in upstate New York. Anyway, the dog came back. You know, he knew his basic commands: heel, sit, stay down, and come. But it wasn't good enough for the guy. The guy wanted more perfection, more perfection, more perfection. So he got more trainers and more trainers. Trainers came to the house, and what they did is they continually tried to train this dog. But the dog was already overtrained. So any training they was doing was really going to make things a whole lot worse. Finally, the guy was so frustrated with the concept that he could not get this dog to be as perfect as he wanted it to be. Boy, I want to sock this guy one. If I did, I wouldn't be here today. So basically, he wasn't satisfied. So he gave the dog away. And when the new people got the dog, again, they tried to resolve the issues, again, by calling in trainers. And the trainers would try to resolve the overtrained dog by giving more training. Then it was the early 70s, so I was really just starting out. You know, I got back to this country 1971, and I started my company. It was called Master Dog Training. I'll never forget it. And to get people to notice me, what I did is I actually took ads in the local penny savers. So the new owners or new guardians of Duke called me up. They saw my ad in the penny saver and they figured, hey, what can they lose at this point? I think I charged them $15 to go evaluate the dog. I met Duke. I spent about 15 or 20 minutes with Duke on the initial evaluation, just watching the dog. That's what I do. Any good trainer, before they can tell you what to do or behaviors or how to do it, they need to just shut up and watch. So I watched Duke's behavior. I watched, and I saw this dog was totally void of any personality. The dog was totally void of any direction. Couldn't make up his mind, couldn't think for himself. I couldn't deal with that. I knew I had to come up with a plan. What did I do? How did I untrain Duke? Okay, so here's the story. I actually wrote notes on myself. Remember, folks, this was in the 1970s, the early 70s. I was just a mere babe at that point. Anyway, I knew my heart was broken. I knew I had to do something. All these other trainers, behaviorists, I don't know where they were thinking, but they were not thinking out of the box. And that's when I started to get this reputation as really being eccentric. And let me tell you what I did. The first thing I did with Duke was I changed his name. Why did I change his name? Because he's been hearing all of this training over and over again. Duke, do this. Duke, do that. Duke, 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 Duke. So everything with the name Duke, every time he heard the name Duke, he anticipated that he was either going to be corrected or he had to do something. So I changed the name. How do you change a dog's name? Well, you don't just say, all right, Duke, this is no longer your name. I'm going to make it a little bit different. So what I actually did is I used two names. And I let them pick the second name. And they wanted to name Duke for whatever reason. They wanted to name Duke something else. So let's say it was Roy. I forget exactly what it was, but let's say it was Roy. So let's say they named the dog Duke. And then the new people wanted Roy. So I would say, hey, Duke Roy. Hey, Roy Duke. How you doing? Hey, Roy Duke. Hey, Duke Roy. Hey, Roy Duke. Every time I saw the dog and every time someone greeted the dog. And what happened was we started literally dropping the name Duke and continue using the name Roy, if that was the name. I'm not remembering exactly. So that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did was I took off the collar he was used to wearing, because again, he associated that collar with everything negative. So I took off that collar and I put on a harness. And I explained to the people, this is what I want you to do for the next couple of weeks. They said, what? We'll do anything. We love this dog. I said, do nothing. Do absolutely nothing. And then it occurred to me, I started using no commands. I let the dog play for hours. And what I was doing at the time, I was doing a lot of rescue work. So I was working with a lot of humane organizations and rescue. So I said, you know what? This poor Duke needs less of people and more of dogs. He needed to learn how to be a dog. He was a machine, a robot. Breaks my heart. So what I did is I took him to doggy areas. There were no big dog parks back then. So I took him to doggy areas in my own backyard, the backyard of where he lived. And I invited other people with dogs that I knew over there. And they played, and they played, and they played for hours. He really needed to know. He forgot that he was a dog. So here are some of the other things I did. Most of the time, anyone who knows me, most of the time I spent on my hands and knees with Duke. And the reason I did that is I wanted Duke to feel comfortable with a human consistently on his level. And that's what I did. I even did this, and this is where people think it was a little strange. This poor dog was so over-dominated by trainers and the previous people that had him, so overtrained that he was so submissive to everything around him. A little submissive to other dogs, definitely submissive to people, especially men. So what I did is I actually took Duke for a couple of days myself. When I say days, I mean just a few hours. I didn't take him out of the home. I went to the home and took him a place. And you know how you always hear about the dog? If one dog stands over a dog, it displays a little bit of dominant behavior. What I did, hear me out on this before you call the men with the white coat, so hear me out. What I did was specifically lie underneath Duke and actually put my head and my chest underneath Duke and try to make him actually feel a little dominant over me. I did that for a few days, and I noticed he was starting to gain a little confidence. And there were no commands being given for weeks. No heel, no sit, no stay, no sit, no, okay. None of that whatsoever. Now, I continued working with Duke. I had the guardians working with Duke over and over again. But anyone out there who's ever listened to me or watched me on TV knows that my reaction to "it can't be done" simply means that you can't do it, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done. So once I got Duke, and it took me several months, but once I got Duke to the point where he was no longer fearful of people, in fact, he was a little dominant of people, always raising his paw and whacking them with them, I started seeing this confidence come out. I said, you know, maybe now is the time to start re-educating Duke on the things that any good, healthy dog needs to know, like how to walk without pulling, how to stay, how to sit, how to come when you call him. But I turned it all into a game, a major game. The dog never knew how to retrieve a ball, could not understand how to retrieve anything, because since he was a puppy, he was being trained so much. So what I did was in the yard where the people lived, Copeg, well, actually, Copeg is kind of where they were, but he came from a different area. Where they lived, in their backyard, they had the backyard fenced. And you know, wherever fences meet, there's a corner. Okay, so there's a corner in the fence. So what I did is I started kind of tossing a ball into that corner and standing in front of it. So when the dog went there, he had no way to get out but to come back to me. And of course, I was down on all fours at that point. And after a couple of days, he started actually retrieving things, and you could see the smile come on his face. Now, anyone out there who's ever worked in rescue This dog was destined, if this amazing couple did not find me, I don't want to sound egotistical, but did not find me, this dog would have definitely been euthanized. Because after they hired these other trainers, and after they worked with these other trainers, they realized that the other people gave up. How do you give up? How do you give up on anything that's alive? So this was the case of Duke, as I said. So for those people out there that either watch TV or watch these trainers with heel, sit, stay, the old Gestapo methods, or I'm the pack leader, I'm the boss, that's not the way to do it. If your dog really, or cats too, but if your dog really builds that confidence, in my books, in How to Get Your Dog to Do What You Want, I write specifically about the importance of building up your dog's confidence and self-image. And so many dogs that are overtrained, and there are many out there, a lot of people doing Schutzhund training, they have no idea what they're doing. They're actually taking away the confidence of the dog by not giving the dog the opportunity to make decisions for himself. So 3 months later, maybe 4 months later, I don't remember how long it was, Duke was a real dog again. I'm going to tear up now. It was just amazing. In fact, I actually had the people come to some seminars I started doing, and he turned out to be this incredible dog. So the moral of Duke's story is that don't expect your dog to be perfect if you're not. Let him make mistakes. Let him be a dog. Let him pee on the bush. Let him roll around on the grass. So he doesn't come every single time you call him. He doesn't sit every time you tell him to sit. I don't do everything everybody tells me to do either. We have to remember that we have to let our pets think. The biggest thing that drives me crazy is when I go into a home, or I even hear someone on the radio show call me up and says, well, my dog's well trained. He just lies in the corner and does whatever I want him to do. That's not a well-trained dog, folks. In my opinion, that's an abused dog. Any living thing that isn't able to think for itself or make decisions for itself absolutely, positively makes me crazy. So what I'm going to be doing, and so that's kind of Duke's story, but the untraining part of it really came from just not training, just letting him be a dog, just letting him sniff, letting him roll around, letting him play, just letting him be a dog. And these people contacted, pet psychics, they contacted everyone. No one would understand the most important thing about Duke's behavior was that I had to undo it, because his behavior was based on a false premise that a dog must respond to the people they live with 100% of the time. I don't know, anybody out there respond 100% of the time? I don't, that's for sure. So I want to get your opinion on these. I have literally thousands of stories. Some of the stories I'm thinking of sharing with you guys, for example, a couple of years later, I was a peace officer, volunteer peace officer at that time, and I was called to a home, also in Suffolk County, Long Island, and when I pulled up to the home, there were like 12, 13 motorcycles, chopped motorcycles in the driveway. But there was a report of animal abuse there. So I went there, guy opened the door, I showed him my badge, and he said, what are you, a dog cop? Mind you, this is a motorcycle gang that you would all know the name of. And they had this pit bull. Was it true that the dog was abused, or was it just the people didn't want a motorcycle next door? Anyway, that's a story coming up in the future. Another incredible story I'd like to share with you, and I'll keep going as we can, is the story of the first dog ever trained for people with disabilities. I'm talking about a couple, again on Long Island, I think they were in Queens, that were both confined to wheelchairs, both deaf, and one paralyzed. It was just incredible working with that. And Mark Walensky, who'll forget my friend Mark, Down syndrome, severe, all the kids in the neighborhood shunned him. I trained his dog to do tricks and he became the hit of the neighborhood. So I literally got thousands and thousands of stories. The dog that was trained in Russian in Harlem, New York, working with some of my celebrities, David Letterman's two dogs, Bob and Stan. But I really want to focus in the next few times that I do these on the training aspect, the behavior aspect, because there really is so much bad advice out there. There's some good advice as well. Good advice as well, but there's some really bad advice. So I say this to everyone. If in fact it sounds wrong, if in fact it sounds abusive, chances are it is. And let me tell you, the best way to educate a dog is to understand that it's a dog. Don't expect the dog to respond like you. You don't lift your leg when you pee, do you? I don't. Well, maybe I do. And I've been playing with dogs way too long. But the point I'm trying to make is we always try to make our dogs more like us. Hey, I got a lot of human beings I know. I don't want my dogs more like us. I want more like other dogs. So let me kind of end this by saying, listen, if you want me to do more of these, let me know. I mean, I have the time right now to do them. And I literally, I've been training animals and I work with over 40,000. I literally have 40,000 stories to share. Some of them are dogs that were taken out of death row or dogs I pulled out of dogfights. So I hope the information helps you. If you can glean one piece of information about your dog or your cat, well, there's some cat stuff too, that helps you understand them a little bit better, then my job has been done. Then I've accomplished exactly what I want to accomplish. That's making life better for the pets we live with and making life better for you as well. So just remember this, okay? If you love your dog, and I know you do, you're watching me right now, what else would you be doing on an afternoon like this? If you honestly love your dog, then treat him like part of the family, not the family dog. Again, it makes all the difference in the world. So let me say again, when I met Duke, he was like, I don't know how to describe him. He just, no personality, no energy, no drive. And when I first took him for his first walk, his head was directly on my face, which is the way a lot of dogs are trained. And if you're in a show ring or a police dog or a military dog or whatever, I'm okay with that. But this is someone's pet. The dog couldn't even go for a walk and sniff on a tree and lift his leg because the guardian, the owner of that time, they won't call him a guardian, the owner of that time, would jerk him away. He would make the dog sit and stay before he fed him. He would make the dog sit before the dog went outside. He would make the dog sit and stay before people came in his house or left his house. When he took his dog for a walk, the dog always had to walk on his left side. I see one of my spots has no sound. Okay, I hope the sound came back. If the sound isn't there, we'll fix that for next time. But just a reminder that if for some reason it doesn't, I'll be sharing the sound version on my other Facebook page, on that page, and just as soon as we get off here. So if you're not hearing it and you're just seeing it, how do you know what I'm saying? I will share that sound with you. So let me end here. I want you to give all of your dogs a big hug and a kiss. Remember, they are your best friends. And if you want me to do some more of these step-by-step things, and again, remember, change his name, took off the collar, introduced the harness, let him hang out with other dogs to learn how to be a dog, let him dominate me a little bit to get over his fear of human beings. All of that made all the difference in the world. Are there other people that do that? I don't know. Who else is crazy enough to let a dog stand over them? But that's what I learned. Remember now, my background is in Europe, Southeast Asia, and I learned from some of the best behaviorists and trainers in Germany that you can imagine. So I put their knowledge into play in cooperation with the knowledge I've learned over these last years, and hopefully that's helped a lot of pets. So let me say goodbye to you guys now. I'll speak to you all on Sunday, listen to me, on Saturday on the Pet Show. This was my first shot at this. Again, if you like it, let me know, send me a note, and we'll continue doing them. And I'll be going over case by case by case. And there are some pretty interesting cases. And believe me, some of the cases I'm going to share with you are going to break your heart. Some of the cases are going to make you smile. And some of the cases saying, you know that guy Warren? He's really nuts. Speak to you guys on Saturday. Have a good one.